You are now listening to the Building Her Dream podcast, where we have inspiring conversations with introverted women entrepreneurs who are building their dream lives and businesses on their own terms. Hosted by business operations strategist, author, and the founder of Building Her Dream, Shayla Burton. To learn more about this podcast and our magazine, visit www.buildingherdream.com. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to the Building Her Dream podcast. I'm your host and lifelong introvert, Shayla Burton, and I'm so excited to chat with today's guest. She is Elena O'Connell, a stress and mindset coach, and also a nurse, all the way from Ontario, Canada. Hello, Elena. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Shayla. I'm so excited to be here.
Yes, I'm glad to have you here. Now, I always like to start off with a fun question. So, if you could wake up tomorrow and have your perfect dream life, what would that look like for you?
That is quite a question, and I love that because I think about that all the time. For me, it would be waking up in a house that's right by the ocean because my heart and my soul is always calling me to the water. So I do want to be on the ocean front. It would be to have my family there with me and to, take it day by day, but changing people's lives because I want to see the change in the world. I want to help people who are struggling, and there's no better way of feeling satisfied in your life than helping others. So that's what I want to do every single day in any way. So either it be working with my clients one on one or going and doing speaking engagements, but doing something that changes the world every single day.
I love that. I love that. And I love your dream too. I would love to be by the water as well, probably not on the water, just in case it gets a little too high, but like in walking distance, I would love that. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and the work that you do?
Thank you. So I have been a nurse for quite some time. It's been almost 15 years. I have come from working in the community to working in the hospital, all around the hospital, really. And I even worked in public health. I worked in an isolation hub. I've done almost every aspect of nursing that you could think of. And I've had quite a varied career in nursing, which has led me down the path of self discovery and self improvement. Because at the end of 2019, I went through burnout, my second one ever. And what happened was I hit rock bottom. And once I hit rock bottom, I knew something had to change. Something had to give, and I had to adjust my lifestyle somehow. Now, for many years, I would say quite a few at that point, I experienced migraines and I didn't really know what was causing them, but I had them so frequently to a point where I was almost near taking medications every single day as a preventative measure because I experienced the migraine every 2 days, 2 to 3 days, and they were debilitating migraines. So I worked through that for many years, not realizing what was really causing them. But it was only when I hit my burnout that I started to change my habits and the way I saw the world that I started to see shifts in that. Now, what happened for me is I realized that I wasn't managing stress well. And I think a lot of people can relate to that because we live such busy lives and we give so much to others that we often think, I'm okay. I'm okay. You know, I have a family, but I need to take care of them. I need to take care of everyone else. And we put ourselves last. And what happens is that we never really give ourselves the time and the care that we need. So we end up burning out, stressed out, burnt out, and exhausted. And when I started realizing stress was a big issue for me was when I started to do simple little things. What I started to do at that time was meditate every day. And with that, I found myself getting a little more peace. Now, a lot of people would say meditation is super hard, which it is when you're starting out,
Mhm.
because people think that meditation is supposed to be easy, but it's not. It's something that you have to consciously embody and not judge yourself for it. Because when people try and meditate, they think that they should be in a calm, peaceful state. But that's not the case when you start. It's
Mm,
only with time that you see that progress. But for me, what I found was when I started to meditate in the mornings, I would set myself up for a better day. And that transpired into better sleep, which transpired into less migraines. So it almost kind of came full circle for me with starting to change little habits in my life.
mm,
And, you know, it's so easy for us to say, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do this. But if we try and do too many changes at the same time, we just end up getting nowhere,
yeah.
right?
Mhm.
So that was a huge thing for me. That was kind of the pivoting start of my transformation for myself. I started to read more. I started to learn about managing stress. I started to learn about burnout. I started to learn about really anxiety, which I never thought I had, to be quite
Mm,
honest. Even being in the nursing field, I always thought, oh, this is just how it works for all of us. You know, you worry about what's going to come next, you worry about what the future holds, all of those things come flooding in, and that's just the norm, right?
mm,
But we don't realize that it slowly but surely starts taking over our life.
yeah.
And it does impact us in such a tremendous way when we can't sleep because our mind is just racing, worrying about
Mhm.
tomorrow.
Yeah.
So it all started to come together for me once I started to realize that, you know, I have quite a few things I really need to deal with
Mhm.
because I never stopped to think and consider that I needed to do something, right? It's not until you hit the wall that you realize, okay, there's a problem. We
Yeah.
need to change something.
Right. I definitely can relate to that, especially when you said 2019 is when you first discovered your burnout, because I went through the same thing. When I was working a full-time job, my career was in human resources. And 2019 is when I was just really stressed at the last company that I worked for. And I started getting like chest pains at work. Like I would get up to leave my office and then I would get this pain in my chest and I felt like if I kept going, I was gonna fall out or pass out. So I would come back, sit down at my desk, and I figured it was, like, stress related, so I would, pull up YouTube on my phone and watch a couple of funny videos to try to calm myself down, and the second time that happened, I was like, "You know what? I like you, I gotta make a change," and so I put in my resignation, and, I didn't have another job lined up, I did have my business part-time, and was not ready to go full time at that moment, but I'm like, this I can't stay here at this job because it's affecting my health and I don't want to die here. So I need to do something. And so yeah, I that's when I went full time. Now the funny thing or ironic thing is maybe 2 years later, being full time in my business is when I experienced burnout again and was having that same feelings that I had when, I worked my job. So pretty much I just recreated the problems and the stress that I had with my full-time job into my business. So then I had to make some changes again. Yeah.
It's easy for us to think, "Oh, well, we've done it once, it's not gonna happen again," right?
Mhm.
But our lives get so busy, so
Yeah.
busy. We have kids, we have families, people get sick, things happen, and it just keeps adding stuff on top of us. And what
Mhm.
stress really is, it's like bubble wrap that you keep applying to yourself. Because if you're
Yeah.
not managing it well, that's what you're doing, is you're covering yourself up, you're wrapping yourself up in more layers, and then you can't move. You just
Mm.
can't move and you can't breathe and you can't function.
Mhm.
So I'm not surprised it happened again. I think if we don't constantly reassess where we are, we can get into burnout again.
Mhm. For sure.
But we have to consciously think about, okay, how am I doing? Am I sleeping? Am I giving my body the nutrition it needs? Am I moving? Looking at
Yeah.
all the aspects to see how we actually are feeling because it's super easy to change something quickly, right? But once you hit burnout, it takes so long. It takes so long for you to recover
Yeah.
because you just hit rock bottom.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. You talked a bit about meditation, and I hear people say, that they meditate and that helps them. But how does it like help you?
So for me, I've always found my mind was racing. I always
Okay.
overthought about everything. And what meditation did for me is I let my mind try and concentrate on something, right?
Okay.
I wasn't doing meditation to a song that had no lyrics. I was
Mhm.
listening to active meditation. So it's telling
Gotcha.
you breathe in, concentrate on this, concentrate on how your body feels. So you're constantly redirected where your brain should go.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to be very honest with you. Your monkey mind, which is what gets your brain going all over the place. This is normal for
Gotcha.
all of us. It jumps all
Mm-hmm.
around, it takes over. So, when you're meditating, you will find yourself a little bit frustrated, especially at the beginning, because your mind will be going from place to place to place to place, and it won't be able to concentrate on what the meditation is saying. And that's
Gotcha.
normal. People get frustrated at that point and they say, I can't do it. It's not meant for me. But here's the thing, meditation is like a muscle that you have to keep working, just like you go to the gym, just like your heart is pumping. It's a muscle that needs to continue to work. So if you don't exercise it, how can you expect it to be strong?
Mm.
Right? So for me, what it did is it took time. It was something I did every single day consciously, and it helped to slow down the thoughts.
Mm.
And with time, it slowed down anything that I didn't want to think about. Even if I started thinking about it, I was able to take my attention away and let it go.
Mm.
And that was the most important thing.
Gotcha.
And I also found with time, now this has been quite a few years now, but with time, when I just sit there in silence, my mind
Mm-hmm.
isn't racing. I can sit there in silence and peace, which is
Mm,
just so perfect.
yeah,
Yeah.
gotcha. That makes sense. That makes sense. Um, Meditation, I feel like that is probably something that a lot of introverts enjoy. We love to sit in the quiet and be by ourselves. When did you first realize that you were an introvert?
I've always been an introvert, even as a small kid. I kind of stayed to myself. I wasn't very outspoken. I had my group of friends, but I didn't really reach out to other groups. And I think over time, I was comfortable with that, right? I
Mm,
didn't want to step out of my comfort zone and go and talk to many people. I was comfortable with being with my friends that I had.
mhm.
And as my nursing career started, I had to become more extroverted because you do speak with lots of people, you're constantly interacting. So that pushed me out of my shell a bit.
Yeah.
And what I found for me was the biggest thing was when I started my business, I had to become extroverted. I had to start talking to people more and people I didn't know, people I've never seen before. And that was a game changer for sure.
Mm.
It, it's only when you start to put yourself out of your comfort zone that you can see your true growth.
Yeah, absolutely. My career in human resources is very people focused as well. Got to do a lot of talking, and I'm really kind of thankful because I was put in that field pretty much when I was in high school. My senior year, I got an internship in an HR, a corporate HR department. And so since that's how I started, I just said, "Oh, I guess this is my career." So I just continued on, but I'm so thankful because if I would have just chosen something on my own, it would have been, I don't know, something that would have kept me as like a hermit. Because when I was younger, I was even more quieter and, to myself. Um, but something that I find interesting, a common thing that I hear people say or introverts say is that, in their job, they have to be more extroverted. Um, and I'm wondering, like, are we being extroverted? Like, I feel like we're still being introverts. We're just using our communication skills. I feel like people think introverts are not talkative or they don't really want to be around people, but I feel like some of us we do enjoy people and having conversations with them. It's just we can't do a lot of communication and peopling without recharging. If that makes sense.
I agree with you 100%. We definitely
Yeah.
need to recharge. And that's also part of the reason why I say this could actually lead to burnout, even though it seems kind of silly. But being around people for people who are introverted
Yeah.
is very taxing on them emotionally. And it does lead to burnout because if they're constantly giving and giving and giving their energy to others, they will just burn out.
Yeah.
And for me, I would say it depends on the person, to be quite honest, because there's people who are introverted, and then there's people who are still introverted, but less introverted than others. So those people
Sure.
are able to balance things a little bit easier than others. So
Yeah.
in those cases, it's a little easier for them to be around people more. But
Mhm.
again, it just depends on you, it depends on your personality, and I also feel like part of it is dependent on your upbringing,
Yeah.
because if you had a family where you were always an introvert, you did your own thing, your family didn't interact with you, you didn't have that,
Mhm.
interaction, so the communication skills weren't there, you will be finding it much harder to communicate with others, and it'll take a lot more work for you to get into that role than somebody who did have that upbringing, whose family was more interactive with them, who was trying to do activities with them. It'll be a little easier for that person.
That makes sense. I definitely had to work on my communication skills as an adult. As a child, I was the quiet one of the family and the kind of the oddball, and so I was just always off to myself. And when I was younger, I thought that I did not like people, but as I grew and kind of learned myself more, I realized it was just the specific people that I don't care for. But when I find the people that I like, I'm very talkative. And I could talk for hours, especially if it's on a subject that I'm interested in. And so um, I would say this last probably 10 years, the past 10 years is when I've really been um, just working on my social skills and trying to improve them and get more comfortable in different social settings. Yeah.
I love that. I love that because you know yourself, right? You know
Hmm.
yourself and you're working to improve on things that you truly need that help in, right? And that's what I
Yeah.
do for myself as well. I try and improve myself in areas where I find I'm struggling to.
Hmm.
I think communication is very important. I
Yeah.
know that I am definitely always working at it as well because there's no perfect person in this world, right?
Right.
No one has all the answers. But at the end of the day, growth is what brings you happiness, and brings you confidence, and it starts to open other doors for you as well.
Hmm. Yeah,
So
absolutely.
always working on growing and improving.
Right. Yeah. Now, so you are a stress and mindset coach. Did you start? I'm assuming you started that after you had your experience with burnout. Is that correct? Is that what inspired you to start your business?
Yeah, yeah, it was exactly that that started to get me to open up to more possibilities and
Mm.
opportunities in the world. Yeah.
Now I can.
Okay. My computer does this thing, I'm sorry I didn't tell you. It does this thing where it drops the sound altogether and it usually takes a lot of time. Anyway, it finally did it. It might do it again, so I'm just forewarning you. I'm sorry. It
No,
does.
it's okay. So, what inspired you to start your business?
For me, my inspiration was my burnout. When I went through my burnout, it took me about 6 to 8 weeks to get out of it myself, and I found it really hard because my daughter was just under a year old, and it was just very taxing to come home and have to give to her. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. The universe doesn't want me to say what I'm saying.
Technology always breaks down when you're trying to do something, so I get it.
Right? Yeah. All right, let me try this again. So For me, what propelled me to go and start my coaching business was my burnout in the end of 2019. My daughter was almost 2 and she was growing up fast, and I was doing a lot of different things at work and coming home and trying to take care of her and give her that time, and just having all of that stress compiled onto itself, and it just cascaded into burnout.
Mm,
So when I went into burnout, for me, it took me about 6 to 8 weeks to get out of it, and it was really, really tough, especially with a small child at home. So what I wanted to do once I got out of my burnout was to help those people who are struggling in the same way. And oftentimes, you don't even realize what burnout is until we hit it. It's not something that's talked about often, and there's not that much out there to help us get out of burnout because, again, it's not very known. So it was important for me to get myself in order to be able to help others because again, we we work in a very stressful field. Nursing is very stressful, and we don't give ourselves that time to take care of ourselves, right?
mm.
So I wanted to help first responders because of all of the reasons that I had, which is we work so hard to help others. We need to take care of ourselves first.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Mhm. So how long ago did you start your business again?
I started my business in 2021 in
Ok.
August, and it's been a few years. So
Yeah.
it's funny how fast time flies. It's funny
Mhm.
how fast time flies.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's been a few years. What's a challenge that you've had to overcome as you're growing your business?
For me, my challenge has always been being able to make time for it. So I've worked as a full-time nurse throughout my whole time. And for me, at this time, I am still full-time nursing, but I do still have my business on the side. Now, having that can be challenging, especially when you have a young child at home who needs your attention. And while you're working full time, you come home, you spend time with your child, then you work on your business, and you repeat and repeat and repeat, right? And sometimes that can feel taxing on you. That's why it's so important to make time for yourself, which I do all the time. And I think regardless of where you are, you need to just realize that everything you do is a stepping stone for your future. And the more you invest, the more reward you will get.
Yeah. Yeah, working a full-time job and trying to grow a business is definitely very challenging. Um, so do you work or when do you how do you find time for your business? Like, do you work in the evenings or on the weekends or like how do you handle that?
So I work in the evenings after my daughter goes to sleep. And on the weekends, I'm usually making more time for family to do things and do outings, to be more present and have a little more fun. Because if you surround yourself with work all day, all night, you will definitely go into burnout.
Yeah.
And for me, I've actually been doing different challenges for the past couple of months. This month of March, I did not do a challenge because it was a little too hectic for me for the past 3 months. But every month, I've done a different physical challenge. So in January, I was running a mile every day, and I did more, and I was doing 50 burpees and I was doing more. So I I'm very intense, as
Yeah.
people may think, but for me, it's about challenging yourself and getting your body moving and doing things that you never thought you could do, right?
Mhm.
It's putting yourself out of your comfort zone, and it's the same thing with your business. If you don't put yourself out of your comfort zone, you will never get to a place where you wanna be.
Mhm.
So you just have to make time for it, and you have to know what you truly want at the end of the day.
Yeah. I love that you number 1, that you reserve your weekends for your family and, you know, taking care of yourself because that's something that the majority of entrepreneurs do not do. We work 24/7. So, that's really good that you do that, and I love that the challenges that you do each month. That's something that I think I may implement myself to challenge myself to do something exercise related would be really good for me to do. So maybe I'll do that, seeing as the weather will be getting really nicer. So maybe I'll challenge myself to, walking every day. But I love that you take the time to do that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm.
My big challenge for this year is I'm going to be running a 10K race in the fall.
Oh, wow.
Yes,
Okay. Well, you
yes.
are on your own with that one because yes, I will not be able to do that, but that's really awesome. So is it
Thank you.
already it's when is it happening?
So it's in the fall. Last year,
Okay.
I actually I signed up for a 5K race. It was my
Okay.
first race ever. I went from a non-runner to a runner within a month
Wow.
and about a week. And I ran my 5K, and I was running with issues. My lungs were inflamed and I was coughing and everything, but I made it. I made my 5K in just under 32 minutes. So
Wow.
I'm very proud of how
Yeah.
far I've come in just such a short period of time.
Yeah.
So for this year, I said, if I can run 5K in 6 weeks, I can do 10K in many months. So,
Yeah,
you
you got
know,
plenty of time.
I do. I do. And I'm not doing it alone. I have a few friends that are joining in.
Oh,
And
cool.
actually, this year, my daughter wants to run too. So
Hmm.
she is 6. She is going to be
Oh,
running a 1K race with me that same day. So,
aw, that's
yeah.
so sweet. I love that.
Yeah. Because when I did my 5K, she saw my medal and she wanted one. So I said, "You have to run if you want one." And she said, "Okay, I'm running." I said, "Okay, let's go." So that
Nice.
was
That's
that.
awesome.
Yeah, yeah,
Very cool.
yeah.
Wow. So, I know you're still in the I I mean, you're a few years in. What type of advice would you give to someone who is just starting their own business?
What I would say is give yourself grace. Give yourself grace because oftentimes we want everything to fall together very quickly, and it doesn't happen that way. We
Mhm.
get frustrated and we want to give up. The hardest thing in those times is to keep going because we don't really see what's coming. And the thing is, Rome wasn't built in a day. Disney World wasn't built in a day. It took Walt Disney 25 years to get to a point where Disney World opened. 25 years he tried and tried and tried. So if you can give yourself patience, give yourself grace, and just slowly take it as it comes, step by step. There's so much to learn. There's so much to do. There's so much growth that needs to happen that you have to realize it doesn't come very quickly. You just have to take it one step at a time.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that, Alina. It has been so great chatting with you. Before we go, I just wanted to give you the opportunity to have the last word. So, if there's anything else you want to share with our listeners, or if you want to just let us know where they can find out more information about you or contact you, you have the floor.
Oh, thank you so much, Shayla. Thank you. So I have a few different areas where you can contact me. I am on LinkedIn. I am under Elena O'Connell. I am also on Facebook and I am on Instagram. So you can reach me on any of those platforms. On Instagram, I am Coach Elena O'Connell. And you can message me, you can direct message me, or you can even tag me in a post. Now, what I would say is I also have my website, which is stressmindsetcoach.ca. And you can send me a direct message through the website as well. And one of the things I'm going to say, and people don't always hear it because what we hear is what we want to hear and what we can understand at that time. But making yourself a priority is the best thing you can do for yourself. It is the best investment. Make time for yourself. Take care of what you eat. Take care of your physical health. Take care of your sleep. Do things that make you feel good. If you want to wear perfume or cologne, use it. Want to wear makeup, do it. Do the things that really truly make you feel good. Because at the end of the day, if you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of others. You can't pour from an empty cup.
Absolutely. That is very great advice. Love that. Wow. Well, Elena, again, it was really great chatting with you. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much, Shayla. It was so great to meet you and to be able to make that impact in the world,
Yeah,
especially with your
absolutely.
listeners.
Absolutely. So I'll have your website and social media information in our show notes so that people can reach out to you if they would like to do that. And I want to also just thank our audience for listening. This has been another episode of the Building Her Dream podcast. If you've enjoyed it, why don't you go ahead and subscribe, leave us a review, and stay up to date with what we're doing by visiting www.buildingherdream.com.